Hi and welcome to a new video. In this video I want to do a refresh for 2024 and just remind us all of making sure that we secure our routers, and then also if you're new to Asus routers, actually switching on some features that are not on by default, and just going through and just making sure that everyone is aware of the different features and some new ones that you might not know of. I have gone in more detail in all the different things like the AI protection and VPN and wireless professional settings, all in previous videos. So please make sure to have a look on the playlist or do a search on my channel page. So first of all, you can see here I've got my Asus GT-AX 11000. So this is going to be roughly the same for all Asus routers. You will have, perhaps if you don't have this kind of red and black color, because this is for gaming routers, you might have a grey color, but you're still going to have the same menu layout. It's just on here it's like a skin kind of thing to make it more gaming orientated, and you'll normally find this kind of user interface look for the ROG or Republic of Gamers Asus routers they have. So if we first of all move on to the first one we have on our list, and that is AiProtection. So you'll see here by default, as I've just this one has just been factory reset with the latest firmware. So you see here by the actual default is actually not switched on. So this is one really good feature, and also what's really good with Asus is they don't pay extra. I see a lot of trends now, all these companies and things like that. They're trying to make more money, so after they've sold you the device, they're trying to get you to subscribe. And of course, one of the biggest things for you to subscribe to is their security features and things like that. And it's good to see that literally Asus has still got this free, and it's been built into the routers for many years. And it is a good tool to use. It's not foolproof, and it doesn't replace any antivirus software that you should have on your computers, including Mac and on Windows. But as you can see here, it's always a good line of defense. I know some people might have some concerns over switching this on, because it actually does inspect the traffic and things like that around privacy and perhaps slowing things down. I haven't really seen any slowdown. Even on this router, and it's quite a few years old now, because most of them are quite highly powerful, you know, the CPUs and the RAM and everything else it has inside there. I think it's more enough for a home environment. Perhaps if you're using one for a business environment, perhaps it may start slow down, because you're going to have several many devices, more than a normal home would have. So as you can see here, it's very simple to switch it on. It does have a FAQ, so a frequently asked questions page as well on the Asus website if you're unsure and you want more information. But it does run down all the information here around the scan that it will complete first of all, and then it will go through the different things here. And also you can go into the tabs here, and you'll be able to see on each of these all the information that's been collecting and any events that it does have identified when it's going through. So as you can see here, we're going to go and switch it on now to see what happens. So as you can see here, it may sometimes come up with this license agreement. So this is a one-time kind of thing. So basically it's just telling you about the privacy policy and also the data collection. So of course they've got to collect the data that runs through to actually analyze the information. So it's not actually, the data is not actually processed on the device, it's up to the cloud. And you'll see here that it's just basically saying here you can opt out of it later on. But if you're not happy with this, then disagree, and you won't be able to use these features with the, you know, because of their data collection. In this case, I'm just going to agree, and then you'll just wait. So it may disconnect you sometimes from the Wi-Fi, so you might have to reconnect, but it shouldn't take too long for it to actually switch on the feature. And once that's done, then you'll reconnect, and then you'll see it complete. So you see quite quick, and this is in real time. And in this case, it hasn't disconnected me. So now you can see all of them are actually switched on. So you have the malicious sites blocking, the two-way IPS. So that's the intrusion prevention system that it has, and also for infected devices and blocking. So you can see here it's all switched on, and then you can run a scan, so you can do a scan of your network, but also it does it through the router. So you can see here that all the different things that are good, and then it's got some things here that are on by default. For some reason the Asus has this switched on. I think it's just for making it more user friendly and easier to use, but we should be switching these off, and it even recommends that you do that as well. And you can see here that you need to change the default password and username. You need to do that. And then also you've got the WPS and the UPnP. So basically we should be switching these off, and you can click on these ones and it'll take you directly to the page to switch it off, but we'll come to these features in a minute. So as you can come back, you can just click close, and then you can keep an eye on everything here as well, and it'll tell you quite clearly, and it does display this in the app when it detects something. You do have the option here under alert preference, so you can actually, it doesn't have many actual companies here, so you only have Google, AOL and QQ and 163. I think these one must be Taiwan and China or Asia services, so you don't have too many, but you can, if you do have Google, and I think most people will do, you can have this set up, so then it will just email you to let you know when it detects something. So that's a good feature, but it would be good if they could just give you an option just to put your own custom domain in. As you said, you can go to these tabs afterwards, and it will just give you the more information that's being found. It will tell you about the client information, what the threat was, and everything else here. So that's all, as I said, that's always a really good feature to have on. Next, we've got parental controls. So again, this is not really a security feature, but is good for your children, where you can actually switch on. You've got time scheduling. So as it says here, you can enable by blocking devices. So it'd be good for tablets and phones for your children if you want to block them between 8 p.m. afterwards, or all the way to 6 in the morning or something like that. You can block them so they don't have to use it during the night time. And also you've got here about web and app filtering as well, and again they've got another FAQ here where it will take you to the Asus page to explain it more. Again, all you have to do is just click that tab and it will switch it on, and then you can then just set up. And it said there like 3 easy steps. Literally, you select the client name, so that's the like tablet, your iPhone or your computer, and then basically you just check what unwanted content categories you want, and then you just click the plus icon and then click apply, and then it's just already actually set. So it's quite easy to use, and it's very user friendly. Next we'll go down to VPN. So VPN here is always a good security tool. So these are a VPN that you'll find on your router. So basically you can add a VPN third-party companies. So basically we're talking about NordVPN, and I think there's lots of them out there, kind of thing. And basically you can add these so you can have certain devices connect through a VPN. So if you want to say like your Android TV box, you want it to, as we're in the UK, we want it to make it look like it's in America, so we can get more channels that are relevant to America, then we can do that, and then vice versa, and then the same as other countries can do the same. What is good, they've recently in the probably in last year, they've actually added WireGuard VPN. So that's a new kind of technology for VPNs. And then you've got OpenVPN, and then you've got 4 choices basically, but I wouldn't advise using this PPTP because it's very out of date now, not very secure. So stick to these ones here, and again all of these are compatible with your Apple, iOS, Android kind of thing, Windows and your Mac OS and all that. So you've got them all here, and again if you want more details, then look at the specific videos I've got, and it goes into more details. We've got VPN Fusion, as we said here, is where you can actually add a device and make that like we said with the TV box, you can add that onto your third-party VPN service. Of course you have to pay probably that every month for it. You can add their details in here. Again, I've got a separate video around that. And then lastly, around the VPN, we've got Instant Guard. So again, if you just want hassle-free, nothing, the difference with this is it won't change what country you're in or anything like that. But if you're in a coffee shop, or if you're in public Wi-Fi and you don't think it's very secure, you can then download the Instant Guard Asus app. So this is actually built by Asus. You toggle this, switch this on, and it automatically sets everything up. And then you log in with your normal details, your Asus details, and then you can just hit one button and it automatically connects back to your router. So that means you can connect back to your router and your home network. So what it won't do is it won't pretend, some on the other VPNs that you get, you can choose, I want to be in a different country or things like this. This just gives you the route back to your home router. So, but what the good thing is that, again, you've got a secure connection back there. And then from your home router, it then sends out the internet traffic. So it's just coming through looks like you're at your home using the internet basically, and everything is secure. So again, this is a really good option, hassle-free, user-friendly. And if you want someone that's not so tech kind of thing orientated, then you can just use this Instant Guard. Next, we've got under general is the traffic analyzer, and this one is quite underrated, to be honest, because I think this one people don't really use it because, again, they might think it slows things down. And again, I haven't noticed any major slowdowns or anything like that. Again, there might be some issues around privacy because, of course, to analyze your traffic, it's not actually done on the router. Some of your information is going to be sent to Asus and then their third-party Trend Microsystems, I believe, and that will then they will analyze that data and things like that. So sometimes some of this information may get sent, but not all of it. And again, just read their privacy. I know it's probably going to be 1,000 pages, but it looks like it's they don't specifically limit you down to your IP address and things like that. And you've got here, so you've got devices, apps you can actually display, and then you can show by, and then you can choose all your clients. You can select there and which, from your tablets to your Apple TV or your Android box or anything like that, you can actually do. And again, you've got bandwidth monitor, so you can see how much actual bandwidth is going through. You can switch that on, so you can always see, like on my Mac, you can see here how much bandwidth it's using and things like that, so that's always good. And then you have your traffic monitor and then your web history. So again, this web history, as it says here, shows you client web surfing history. So again, for privacy, you might want to switch this off because this is just for your viewing, perhaps just to see for quality of service. So it limits on what you're actually looking at. Again, around privacy, you don't really need this kind of thing, so I'd advise probably leave that one off. But again, the others I think are quite valuable because, as I've said previously, is that I had a smart plug and that seemed to be uploading hundreds of megabytes a day, and I wouldn't have known, to be honest, unless I had this. And I suddenly just logged in, looked at it, select the client. I was like, wow, what's a smart plug doing, common sense wise, uploading this amount of data? So obviously it was something there. I tried to update the firmware. It was probably my own fault because I got one of these cheap smart plugs that wasn't from a big brand. Again, it might be infected or something like that. But so, of course, it alerted me straight away. I could see that visually, and I just unplugged it and threw it away, basically. And then also reported it to the manufacturer. So this is a good tool to have, so I advise you perhaps switch this on. So just keep an eye, because nowadays we've got so many smart plugs and Wi-Fi enabled devices and IoT Internet of Things devices in the house, that it's always good to have tracking on here. Again, if you don't want to, you can switch it off, but I'd say this one's really quite a good one, and it gives you a good visual look at something straight away, so you can see it straight. So now we must move under the advanced settings. So you can see here we've got the next one is a network map. So under network map, this is what this is good for, is that you can just go to status under system status, and you can just have a quick look on seeing how your CPU is doing, the RAM, and also if there's any problems with your ports. As you can see here, if green is connected, and then also if it goes amber, then it's got an issue. It may have an issue, so sometimes it might be just like with the 2.5 and you've only plugged in a 1 gig. It's just saying to you, you're not utilizing your full bandwidth. So it might show an issue as well, but also it might show you, if you've got any kind of infected devices and you're RAM's gone all the way up and your CPU on your router's getting hammered at 99% of all the cores, then you know something is working the router quite hard on the internet and there's a lot of traffic going on, especially if there's nothing going on. And of course, if you're gaming or something, then it'd be normal to see some activity on the CPU and RAM. But if you're not, and then you see a lot of that, then it's another identification you can use to actually analyze. Another one as well is very good is the under network map, and you can see straight here to view list, and this will just give you a list of all your devices. And then what's good is if you just go by interface, you can then go and see what all your devices are under wired, the 2.4, the 5, basically all the bands you've got. And if you've got 6 on yours, it will show you all the details about your client. So it'll show you your computer, the IP address, the MAC address, interface that is actually connecting by, and then the speed and access time and things like that. So that's what's really good to see. So you can identify extra clients or you're not too sure what it is. And also, if you do have some devices that have got some kind of generic name, sometimes some of the devices have, you can actually just click on here and actually rename the item so you can identify it later on. You know what that is straight away. So it's always good to see using that list here, and it's easy enough just going into view list. So next we'll go to wireless, and as we can see here, so on wireless here, as you can see here, I've got Smart Connect just for this example actually enabled. So that basically connects all the actual bands. So you can see that my 2.5 and the 2.4 gigahertz bands are all under one SSID or one net Wi-Fi name basically. What I would advise is that if you don't have any issues, so if you do split them up, it's sometimes easier, like I normally do, is that on the authentication method, is that under where it normally sets to WPA2, is actually switching it to WPA2 and WPA3. So some of the devices now are getting updated, more and more coming on with the new encryption standard, and of course if it's on WPA2, that it will just default to the older one. So it's always good to actually default to actually set that one there. So it allow older devices that are not compatible, but also newer devices, it allow them to connect the better encryption, so and strengthen your network. So that's always good. I would advise, if you're like I normally do and I split the connection, so you'll have like one of these tabs kind of screens for each of your 2.4, the 5 and the 5. Perhaps for the 2.4, perhaps it might be, I would try WPA2, WPA3 personal. Some very old devices don't seem to like this for some, in my experience. So try it. If you do have any issues, then swap that one back. But for all the 5 gigahertz and the 6 gigahertz channels that you have, I would always make sure that you set that to WPA3 if all your devices are new. If they're not, then just stick with WPA2 and WPA3. So it gives that better encryption and more security in your actual network. Next, we have the wireless MAC filter. So you can see here is where you can choose the channel. So of course, if you have different networks, sometimes one network you might only have the 2.4 and the 5. Sometimes you might have the 2.4, 5 and 6. So this just splits it across, so you can just identify, and then you can switch it on. Excuse me. And you can actually from the drop down, you can then select your device, click the add button, and then just go along. So what this is doing is MAC filtering basically. So it only allowed devices that were these MAC addresses that you've selected to connect to your Wi-Fi network. Again, this is an extra security layer that you can put on there. Again, it can be easily bypassed by anyone that's really determined to get into your network, but this will just deter most kind of people that are just trying to quickly get into a network or anything like that. It'll just make their life more difficult. Of course, they'll always, like anything, they'll try and move on to something that's more easier to get into. So it's a good feature to have on. But again, don't forget, when you do have new devices, you'll need to know its MAC address to input it in here so it can connect and set up when you first add it to your network, or it'll just keep trying to disconnect from the it won't be able to connect to the Wi-Fi network. So just be wary of that. Okay, so next we'll move on to the LAN. And as you can see here, you've got your actual host name, so normally that's just your router's model number. Again, if you want to basically disguise this, you can actually change this just to router, or if you want to change even, to anything in the home name kind of thing, then to distinguish it. So what this host name will display is basically what's in your, when you go to like my network or any network preferences and you search for something, sometimes these devices, your router will show up, and this is what the name of it will show up as, so you can actually edit that as well. Again, all the routers for Asus normally come with this default IP address. So this is the IP address you type in when you want to access your router, and then all the devices connect through, and they know it's this 50.1. So again, you can update this, but just beware if you do. Just remember, you need to then, once you've updated this, you need to first update the actual DHCP server to make sure that it's in line with these numbers. So this 50.2, so of course if you change this one here, if you've changed to say 60.1, then you'll need to change this to 60.2 and 60.254, so that's the starting and the ending, just to be secure as well. You've got some more information here about DNS servers. So again, if you wanted to, you can actually update them here as well. But it's probably best to do this in a later stage when we go into the next settings. So that's looking at LAN. Next, we'll look at WAN. So LAN is your local area network. So that's just your home network. WAN is the internet. So the first thing we can see here is that most of the things are actually already enabled. You can see here, this is where we saw on that security AI protection before. So if we go back to that and we go to the scan, you can see that switched on and it's saying it's no. So they advise again to disable it, but they only switch it on because it's much easier for people. People are sometimes just want to plug something in and it to work. So they leave it less secure. But again, I would advise that you actually go to switch this off. So again, as I clicked on it, it takes you straight to this page where we were before, and then all you do is you just click no. So basically just switch it off, because I advise it, because it's such a security flaw, and nowadays it doesn't really cause any issues switching it off, because before it was your Xbox or your PlayStation or any new devices, it would have issues, so it was easy to switch it on. Because there's so many security flaws in it, I would just literally advise to select no. And then also as we come down, you can see here, if you do want to set up other things as well, you can look into actually securing your DNS. So that, again, that's like your phone book. So what it changes when you type in google.com, that then changes it to finds the IP address. So basically, everything has an IP address below it, but of course, for easy, you can remember all those names. You're actually typing in the names actually into your toolbar on the top of the browser in your Firefox or your hopefully you're not using Internet Explorer anymore, and then Chrome and things like that, or Safari. So you can switch these on again, so you can see here, but again, just be wary, these sometimes do cause issues with anything, so this is why they're off by default. But you can see you can switch them on, and then you can set them up here as well. I got other videos that go into more detail about this, so again, just search and everything else, if you are interested in switching these on. But again, this is another good feature for privacy, so your internet service provider doesn't see what domains and websites and things you're actually browsing. It makes it much more secure. Again, once you've actually made those changes, you will have to click apply, and once you click apply, it'll just update. It may disconnect you, and you just might have to reconnect to your router and everything else. So again, that's like the main features for the WAN. Again, we've got one here called the DMZ or DMZ. So basically, you've got here enabling it. That should always be to no. If there is a device, if something is an IP address and that's on, that means that device is bypassed everything, every firewall, every protection, and it's just open to the internet. So it might be a server that you need, and you've got a business kind of environment or something, or you've got a home server that's got issues going through. Then you want to bypass everything. Then you can use this. But Again, I would not. It's probably one of the last resorts to actually set up with setting this up, because this just opens up your that device to the internet with no security. So that's not very good. Okay, so next we'll move on to the firewall. So again, as you can see here, by default the firewall, and there is again protection FAQ if you want to learn more information from the Asus website. Again, you've got here, if you click on these ones, it does come up with the protection. So it says they're disabling the firewall to deactivate all the related functions. So again, it's on by default, and that's very good. It should be. You always want to leave that on by default. Again, what I enable, so enabling this feature, it protects your router from denial of service attacks. You might see where basically they try and flood your connection and things like that to slow it down. It's very rare that sometimes home connections will get it, but I always like to switch this on. Again, I haven't seen any performance issues with having it on. Again, the routers with their CPU and everything else can easily handle this with a home environment. So I like to select yes to that, just because it's not on by default, to switch it on just for that extra bit of protection. And then you've got also your settings here under firewall about setting up rules and things like that. If you want to set them up here, and again there's more information around setting these up later date. But again, as this is just a quick refresh on the security and what to enable, I'll just switch that on and then go down to apply and just switch that on so it's going. And then again, you've got your keyword filters, your URL filters. So yeah, it's like your internet address kind of thing or website you're going to, a network service filter. So again, you can then actually set this up to block services or keywords or internet addresses. So if there is something that you don't want your children or any person in the house, as you can see here, or you type in the address and then it'll block it. So when they try to go through, it'll again, if they use a VPN, if they're more tech savvy, they might be able to bypass this kind of settings. But it's there for setting it up and everything else. It's better than having it not if you do need these features that for the firewall. Next, we've got administration. So again, not really need to change this unless you're going to change the operation of the router. We go into system. So as you can see here, again, this is good where we saw before. So if we go back to AiProtection and we scan, so you can see now I've still got that on. I should have hit apply, I didn't. So you got the next one is the WPS as well, but you've got the here you've got the default. So if we go back, you can see here you can click on there, change, and then change your password to something more secure. Again, if you see this here as well, so if this is switched off, then I would switch this on. So what this does is, as you've seen there, just to check you're human, you have to sometimes click the little pictures or type in the letters and numbers that you see in a box. So again, what this is to do is ensure only humans use and pass through and prevent brute force login attacks. So brute force is if someone's constantly using a script to guess all the passwords, and of course they've got password lists where the most used passwords and things like that are used. They can try and get into your router. So switching this on slows it down because they'll have to type in that thing, the actual code and everything. And then of course, if you change your router login and your password to something more secure, then of course it makes it much harder as well. But again, just make sure you remember when you do update these, you remember, unlike me, the next day normally sometimes I forget, so make sure that you remember what these are. You've got other features down here as well. So for service, again, so that's switched to no. This is for SSH, and this is probably for another video, so you don't need to worry about this, so I'd leave that to no. You've got authentication mode, so you've got both here, and you've got HTTPS. I normally switch that to just to HTTPS, so that's like your secure connection you'll see with like the bank and things like that. So basically you'll still get a warning to say sometimes the certificate is not recognized, but at least then the connection to your router is still encrypted, even though it's giving you a warning. So it might sometimes cause issues connecting and things like that. So if you're not too sure to begin with, it's best to select both perhaps, and then once you're definitely sure you can connect to the HTTPS one, then just actually just select that one to make it super secure. Again, once you do select that, you can change the port. So you can see here it changes the 8443, so you can change that to 1234, and you can see here it just gives you the example, it updates it so you can remember how to access the settings page, and it gives you more information about downloading the certificate as well, to export it and everything else. So that's a good feature to have, but again, remember it sometimes will lock you out, so be careful with this. So best to switch to both for now, and then once you're definitely sure you can connect using HTTPS, that's the secure method, then you can switch it just to that one, because then that one is not encrypted at all, so that's any person on your network can then sniff the packets and things like that and can see your details. Again, you've got down here access your from the WAN or any restrictions. Again, I would leave these to no by default. This is why you've got the VPN as we went up here, and as we said, the easiest one to use is Instant Guard because it's Asus Router. You just go in here, switch this on, download the app, log in, and you can connect back securely. It's not worth actually coming in here and actually switching this on unless you really got a need to, or you've got some reverse proxy going on. But I'd leave these to no, and let's use the VPN option. It's much more secure. And once again, if you any changes you do make, again, remember to hit apply. Next, again, is a firmware upgrade. I won't spend a long time, but you can, if you're basically just plug it in and forget person, just toggle that on so it's on. So every time a new update comes out for the software for the router, or that's what's called the firmware, it automatically download and install it. Or you can then just go here and just click the check button, and it will check for your latest version to see if you've got it, and then it will help you download it. So it's always good just to keep the up to date the software and everything else. Next, we got onto, I know it's not really a security thing, but it's always good to have a backup of your settings. So just in case you do have any issues with your router, you could click here and just save them somewhere safe. And then at least you've got a backup of those, so if anything does happen you can restore them very quickly, instead of going through all the whole setup process. Second to last, we've got the system log. So as you can see here, this starts giving you all the wireless information, connecting, port forward connections. So this gives you all the information here so you can see what your devices are up to. Sometimes it's a bit daunting to actually see all of this, but what basically it's just showing you, especially under this general log, it's showing you when you log in, how many login attempts, was it successful, and what their IP address is and things like that, or their MAC address. So it's always good to have a quick, just a view of it sometimes, just to see what's going on. Because if you suddenly see under like even wireless, there's current deauth or something where something's trying to disconnect your wireless devices, and then also if someone's trying to attempt to connect to your router or anything like that, you can see them in here as well. So it's always good just to have a quick look on here, just to go through and understand them. Again, there's more information in a separate video I've done that you can, if you want to go into more in depth. But again, it's just, you don't need to be tech savvy to understand. Some of this is quite, some of it is quite daunting on here, but some will quite clearly say, when you've logged in and things like that, so you can actually see yourself when someone's authenticated and things like that. So it gives you a good example. And then lastly, we have the network tools. So basically this is not much of a security one, but this is just to get your connection, to make sure that everything is working. If you've changed your DNS or you've changed any settings, you can then just select a website. You've got certain websites here, and then you can just actually click diagnose, and it'll just basically try and connect to that website, give you the information, see if you've got any lost information, that's called packets of information. So it gives you an idea if there's something wrong with your internet connection or it's your device or anything like that. It just gives you an idea to go through there. So that's just a quick rundown of all the settings, just to keep your router secure and everything, using your Asus router. Again, I'd like to know if there's anything I've missed you think we should go into more detail, also to help out other people as well. If there's any things that you've come across that's helped with any security or protection of from the daunting internet and things like that. So I hope you found this video useful, and as usual, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments section. I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching and have a great Christmas.